I started hanging around with gangs in Mexico. When I was in Mexico at like 10 years old, I hung around with a lot of the gangs over there, and I was always I was always a street kid, man. I was always on the street, so I always ended up with bad company. It's just it is what it is.
So so since you was a street kid in Chicago, how did a street kid from Chicago, American, join the Mexican cartel? I don't understand how that happened.
Well, I mean, I'm my family's from Mexico, so I speak the language. I dress it. I mean, my nickname was Brazer. It's like Mexican. I mean, that was my nickname. So like, it was easy for me to fit in, and it's who you know. It's sometimes it's not what you know. It's who you know. And Valerie was a very good friend of mine through my whole childhood, and she always just kind of looked out for me, I guess you could say. Just always made sure I was okay by getting me jobs like that.
And that's how you got down because she gave you a job like that.
That's how I made the connections. And once I got into prison in Mexico, I met a lot of the uncles and brothers, and just I met a lot of people while I was down there. And I always tell people I went in with high school diploma in drug dealing. I came out with a PhD, because I met a lot of the bigger organizations, head guys in prison, and if not a family member that knew somebody. So it changed my life, when I got out that time.
And take it back a little bit. How did you end up in the Mexican prison? If you don't mind telling me.
I got caught at a military checkpoint, and it was supposed to be my last. It was supposed to be my last trip, my last drive, because I had moved up the ladder, so I was gonna be almost like a manager. I wasn't gonna drive the cars no more. I was just gonna make sure they got from point A to point B, and I mean, how they showed it on the show is exactly how it happened. I was drinking a lot. I was doing a lot of drugs. My ego was like big, and just it came crashing down. It burned, crash and burn. That's what I call it nowadays.
What was the worst thing you saw in the Mexican prison?
You can't pick one out, bro, just because there was so much violence, so much just.
But like that one thing that stuck out the most to you that you still like you can't get out your head to this day.
I mean, when that child predator went in there, it was something that took me a long time to stop thinking about it. But it was always like that. It was always like I used to always tell my people in Chicago. I used to always tell them, man, these Mexicans are on some whole different like violence, like horror, like they were on a whole different level, like just stabbing up people over soccer games, and it was just all out violence, and it takes a toll on you, man. Like mentally, it takes a toll on you seeing that stuff. It takes. We're not built for that, So yeah, man.
So with the child predator, what they do, like in the show, they show like a broomstick getting shoved up his rectum. Is that exactly what happened?
Yeah.
Oh man. So I know you definitely can't forget that. You think a regular person from the United States, like a regular Joe Smo from the United States, could make that in Mexican prison?
I mean, we're human beings are very resilient, man. We can adapt to pretty much anything and do anything. I mean, it's like I wrote on my book. A lot of people say that they don't have a monster inside of them, but it's not true. If they push you the right way, you're gonna do whatever you have to do to survive.